In terms of how important data and analytics are to PagerDuty success, what kind of big data tools do you use internally or plan to invest in order to be able to continue serving customers' growing demand?
Yeah, for sure. I think PagerDuty, like probably most companies today, data is obviously very important, not only to our platform and the services we deliver to our customers, but to how we run our own, company from an operational standpoint. And so, to that end, we probably have dozens of different technologies involved in delivering those services, because again, there's kind of no one size fits all. But if I had to look sort of broadly across our environment and probably I'd say two cornerstone technologies or two cornerstone sort of areas of investment I think are going to really be key for us for the near future. And so in terms of our, call it our internal company analytics, fairly recently we partnered with Snowflake to really think about reinventing and sort of relaunching how we handle a lot of those needs internally. Our old environment was very custom built, had a lot of custom tools and technologies that were great for us as a younger company. But as we started to look to the future and had to consider how each of those components was going to have to scale individually for us to be successful, it was clear that we needed to find some way to kind of simplify that back down. And Snowflake really became that tool and that architecture that was going to allow us to unify a lot of those services and not only sort of simplify what we've been doing in the past, but give us a platform and a path to the future that would allow us to go even deeper and add even more functionality and customization to our environment. Going from say company-wide broader metrics and analytics down to department by department, even team by team, and really starting again to democratize data and get as much of that into the hands of our users internally as possible. And again, we could have found a way to do that with our old tools, but finding a platform like Snowflake that was really powerful and ultimately a lot simpler to scale and architect really was foundational for that next step. And so we're really looking forward to what that's going to bring to our organization. The other broad category I would say that applies both to our customer facing product as well as internally is really, call it AI ML. And so we've had machine learning capabilities within our platform for a while now, and we continue to kind of double down on what that brings to our customers. And internally even, we continue to adopt more and more machine learning, artificial intelligence solutions to push that analytics curve farther into the future, moving from historical analytics and sort of understanding real time where you're at to really building models and formulas that start to look, what do we think our customers are going to be doing in a month, in 2 months, in 3 months, and using that to inform how we approach the business. Right now, we're still in the AI ML space, experimenting with a lot of different technologies. We're looking at SageMaker from AWS, Einstein from Salesforce, Watson from IBM. They all have sort of their different strengths and approaches, but we're really just starting to tap the power of what they can bring, again, both to our platform or our company. And again, we're really excited with a lot of these tools that are becoming increasingly accessible and available to anyone.
Our audience would really appreciate if you could share more details about what other tools and technologies are being used at PagerDuty to build robust and scalable systems.
I think the building sort of component of that question really is the operative. I think like most companies, we start out with most of our solutions with some, call it basic building block kind of tool or approach, whether that's a platform like Salesforce or, a lot of the tools and technologies that AWS brings to our environment. But we spend a lot of time not just finding those kind of core tools, but really thinking about, how do we integrate all of those together into an experience that crosses work streams and processes and creates a real experience for our customers, again, whether those are internal or external. And so we take, I'd say, a little bit more of an engineering centric approach to some of that development. And while we may start with a platform like Salesforce or a tool like Slack, which now I guess is going to be part of Salesforce, that's kind of step one. But again, we need to take that step back and look at, what are our users trying to accomplish in those platforms. And we actually spend a lot of time building glue and integrations and sort of, seamlessly, architecting those solutions to better meet the process. And if you look again, I keep landing on Salesforce here, but a tool like MuleSoft, which Salesforce acquired a couple of years ago, an integration platform like that starts to become really critical in our environment, because we are, at our core, always integrating a lot of different tools and technologies. Having a platform like MuleSoft to do that allows us to be much more flexible in the solutions that we ultimately deliver, and reduces some of that, again, longer term engineering burden on us.
My next question is about COVID-19 pandemic that has forced all of the teams to work remotely. Being a technology leader, how do you keep your teams that are now working remotely, being productive, focused, and motivated?
Thankfully, I think some of those attributes we touched on earlier, looking for people who are actually kind of excited by challenge and like doing things differently, people who are motivated and diverse and sort of approach things differently. I think that actually helps with resilience in times like this, because again, while everyone is going to struggle with their own challenges and problems in an environment like this, and clearly 2020, I don't think was a year that anyone expected going in. I think having that just mental resilience in your teams, because they're used to dealing with change, they're used to flexibility and adaptability being core to what you're doing. It makes something like shifting to work from home or working in isolation or increased isolation somewhat easier. And I think the good news from a technology standpoint, we'd always built our environments to be very location agnostic, and we sort of started with flexibility in mind. In terms of the people, again, that starting with that sort of that core mindset of adaptability and flexibility helps. But I would also say we as a company, very, very early on, within probably the first week of the initial quarantine shelter in place here in the United States, invoked our crisis leadership team. And one of the main focuses of that group, one of the main work streams, started with the health and well-being of our employees. We wanted to make sure that while some of us were focused on the business and the economic impacts, that there was also a big focus just on how we support our people, knowing that not only physical health, but mental health was going to be a challenge. And back then, even I think our worst case was, it's going to be a couple of months of this sort of environment, will be back to normal. And as that time frame kept, getting extended, we were glad that very early on we focused on trying to help our people and actually launched a lot of new tools and services to, again, fill in some of those gaps where we probably didn't have as many benefits or as many opportunities for people to reach out when they were struggling. And at the end, I think it ultimately comes back down to communication. Like you've got to talk to the people on your teams and understand how they're doing, not just from a work perspective, but from a personal perspective, and letting them know that it's okay that their personal life may have to take precedence. That's more important than a single project or a single deliverable internally. And people have to know that it's okay to carve out time to cover their personal life. And that might mean different working arrangements or flexibility in sort of deadlines and timelines. And I guess I've never really cared that much where, how, when, or whatever people get their jobs done, as long as they get it done. But as a leader, I think you need to be explicit in calling that out and letting people know that it's okay to take space for themselves, and that's not a problem. People first is one of our core company values at PagerDuty, and that's not new because of COVID. That's just who we are as a company, that we know one of our core strengths is the people that work for us. And I think having that as part of your DNA going into a crisis like this just helps make that, sort of journey through it as good as it can be. There's still going to be rough spots and there's still going to be challenges, but starting with that sort of preface or that notion that people matter and they're individuals who are going to deal with things differently, and we need to support that and make sure that they're first and foremost okay, that goes a long way. And so I was very thankful to be at the company I was at. I'm glad we did a lot of things to support our people, and we'll continue to do that until we think we're through this.